Hit record. So welcome everyone to Community Conversations produced by Midwest Women's Herbal. We are delighted that you are all here with us tonight. In case you aren't familiar with us, Midwest Women's Herbal is a women-led and women-empowered organization that has been producing herbal and personal growth events in person and virtually for over 13 years. We produce 2 conferences and other in-person events and 1 live virtual series annually, as well as ongoing virtual courses, community conversations like this event tonight, and on-demand workshop recordings. To find out more, please visit our website, midwestwomensherbal.com or theherbwomenclassroom.com. Welcome to Integrating Herbal Wisdom with Dr. Tieraona Low Dog and Linda Conroy. I am Maria Felche. I'll be your hostess this evening. Also with us is Ashley Oman and Alicia Gassaway. They will be handling our tech support. So if you find yourself with any audio or visual glitches, please send either of them a private chat, or you can send them an email at herbwomen@gmail.com. I know there are other members of our coordinating team here tonight. It takes a strong village of women to produce events like this and our conferences, so please give them a lot of love and gratitude. I am thankful for each and every one of them, truly. They are hardworking, gifted women. So we always like to begin all of our community conversations with a reading of our mission and vision statements. Take it away, Alicia.
Thanks, Maria. Our mission statement: Midwest Women's Herbal provides herbal education and opportunities for transformation. Immersed in the wise woman tradition, grandmothers, mothers, daughters, sisters, and children gather in a co-created village. Through earth-centered healing and nourishment, we ally with the plants that grow around us. From the ground up, we connect to weave ourselves, our families, and our communities into the dynamic spiral of health. And our vision statement: we live in a world where the feminine is honored and respected, where women stand fully in their power, acknowledging their wisdom, skills, and innate healing abilities.
Thank you so much, Alicia. That's always lovely to hear. So we have just a bit of housekeeping before we begin. In the coming days, we'll be sending you some emails with some amazing offers, and we want to make sure that you receive them. We know that a lot of times our emails can go into your spam promotions folder. So we have a couple of strategies to help you avoid that. If you add our email, herbwomen@gmail.com, to your contacts, that will that will help. And then you can also respond to the email that we send you tonight. And with that response, it lets your server know that we're friends now and that it's okay to let all of our emails come into your inbox. So for tonight, we want you to keep all questions and comments in the chat focused on tonight's topic. If you have any other questions about Midwest Women's Herbal or our work, please contact us at herbwomen@gmail.com. We would like to thank our sponsors who make hosting events like this possible: Moonwise Herbs, Mountain Rose Herbs, Frontier Co-op, Goodland Creative, Peaceful Parlor, Herb Farm Pacific Botanicals, Host Defense Mushrooms, the Great Lake Herb Fair, the Red Earth Herb Gathering, Wisconsin Mycological Society, Wisconsin Public Radio, the Driftless Folk School, DNA Hemp, Wish Garden Herbs, and Natural Awakenings magazine. Sponsorship is open to everyone at any level and helps to support the many scholarships we award every year. Check out our website for sponsorship opportunities. Okay, a couple of quick announcements before we dive in. Did you know Midwest Women's Herbal has a virtual learning space? The Herb Women Classroom has both free and paid offerings with hundreds of hours of learning available about mushrooms, herbs and nourishment, personal growth. Every learning module comes with a monthly Q&A with Linda Conroy on Zoom. And that makes all of those courses priceless, and you should really take advantage of that. This is a unique opportunity for learning online and an amazing chance for you to spend time with Linda and get your questions answered. Complete conference recording packages are also available. There's something there for everyone, and we are excited to announce tonight 2 new learning modules in the classroom, with 2 parts each: clinical practices in herbalism and women's mysteries. I had a lot of fun pulling those two together. So I want you to check them out, herbwomenclassroom.com. Registration is ongoing for our 2024 In Our Own Hands Women's Wellness Series. We are thrilled with the amazing lineup of powerful and knowledgeable women teaching this winter, including Phyllis Light, Robin Klein, Julie Charette Nunn, Dr. Cornelia Cho, who's coming up next, Sherry Winston, Bevan Clare, and our own Linda Conroy. In Our Own Hands began on January 20th, but you can still sign up for one or all and still get the recording, so you won't miss a thing. Registration for Midwest Women's Herbal Conference, taking place May 24th through 26th at Camp Helen Brockman in Alman, Wisconsin, is sold out for the main weekend. Thank you so much. We have started a waiting list in case space opens up. So go on our website and sign up for that right away in case, in case space opens up. Registration is still open for all pre-conference events, including Thursday evening and Friday morning pre-conference workshops, the 2 3-day immersions with either Susan Weed or Dr. Cornelia Cho, or the 2-day Herbal First Aid immersion with Linda Conroy and Leah Wolf. With pre-conference events, you can put together your own mini conference package, including lodging and meals. You can also pre-purchase the recording package at a great price for the main conference, so you won't miss a thing. All right, so at the end of tonight's conversation, we will be giving away a copy of Dr. LowDog's popular book, Healthy at Home, Get Well and Stay Well Without Prescriptions, as well as a recording package for the upcoming 2024 Midwest Women's Herbal Conference. But you need to be present here tonight at the end to win either of these amazing giveaways, so please be sure to stay until the end. And now I am honored to introduce Linda Conroy, visionary and founder of the Midwest Women's Herbal Conference, Mycelium Mysteries Women's Mushroom Conference, the In Our Own Hands Women's Wellness Series, the Herb Women Classroom, and owner of Moonwise Herbs. She also offers both in-person and virtual herbal apprenticeship programs. Linda is a bioregional herbalist who has been practicing and teaching herbalism in the wise woman tradition for over 30 years. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you, Maria. And thank you for all of your work. I'm sure everybody can hear Maria holds a lot of things together and is really instrumental in making things come together. So thank you for that. Super grateful. As you say, it takes a village to bring these events together. And we have our village, and then there's a wider village of herbal people out in the world that we interface with on a regular basis. One of our allies is with us tonight. I'm so excited, Tieraona, that you are joining us this evening. And we were talking before we got started that this is the 3rd time that you've been with us at our spring conference. And I'm just so excited for that. And I want to introduce Tieraona. I am going to read her bio, so in case some of you don't know her, but I did want to say a few personal things because Tieraona is one of the people that I highly admire and who has definitely inspired me to create community spaces, to stretch myself to learn about herbs in lots of different ways and to think about them relationally, but also as medicine. And I've studied and spent time with Tieraona at her ranch in the past and have also taken her online course. And so I like to bring her into our community so that we have exposure to her work, because she, as even when I read this brief bio, because I'm going to read the brief version, if you read the long version of her bio, the things that you, Tieraona, have done over the years is just remarkable, and I admire you immensely for all that you have done. So I'm going to read Tieraona's bio so that people have some idea. So Tieraona Low Dog is a physician, educator, thought leader, researcher, naturalist, mother and wife, and she doesn't have this here, and grandmother, so that needs to get added. She has directed 3 postdoctoral fellowships, received a presidential appointment under Bill Clinton, named Time Magazine's Innovator in Complementary and Alternative Medicine, is the recipient of 4 Lifetime Achievement Awards, named as one of the 30 most influential people in natural products industry, has consulted with many Fortune 500 companies, designed top-selling dietary supplements, written 4 books with the National Geographic, 50+ peer-reviewed articles, 25 chapters for medical textbooks, and spoken at 600 conferences globally. And that isn't even everything that she's done. So that is a lot. So Tieraona, welcome and thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited that we're going to have the opportunity to actually spend time with you in May. And I'm grateful that you're willing to spend time with us here tonight. So welcome.
Thank you. I just also would like to extend my welcome to all the beautiful faces and names. I can't see some faces, but thank you for showing up. I know that everybody's time is precious. And so the fact that you chose to share some of that time with us tonight is indeed very special. And Linda is one of those people that I have a very hard time saying no to, because I also admire immensely her work and her contributions. And it's just always a thrill to be with you, sister.
Thank you. So when I think about you and your work and the herbal world and the connection that we've had, I think about just a special place that you hold for the herbal community, and that you have are an herbalist, and I think that's the core of where you started on your path. You've been a massage therapist, you've been a midwife, you've practiced in all these ways, and then you went to medical school and you pursued that route. And I think you have a really special lens in terms of looking at integrative health and herbalism's role in that, in all of those different modalities. And so I'm wondering if you might just talk to us a little bit, because our community is very, immersed in the herbal world. And I wonder how you see herbalism's role in all of those different modalities in the integrative place. Like, what's the special place that herbalism holds for health and well-being and medicine?
Yeah. So, for me, I've always been an herbalist. I've always been a woman who loves the earth, and not just the plants, but all of the inhabitants also. I live deep in the forest, in the mountains. Linda, if you've been here, I'm quite remote, and all of the trees and the birds and the bear and all of my wild plants and my cultivated plants are very special to me. Herbal medicine is such an old and honored tradition. And I do separate out herbalism from herbal companies. I know that I know that we need our herbal companies because they make the products that we need and use. But I'm talking actually about just the art of being an herbalist, the art of sitting with people and listening to them and helping them craft a path forward for themselves in which the plants play a part. Do I prescribe medications? Yes, but actually far fewer than the plants that I recommend, because so many times, so many people come in with conditions or symptoms or presentations for which there are not great conventional prescription drugs. Either there's not a good prescription for it, or these side effects are so much more problematic than what they're coming in with, that plants just fit in naturally. I find that many of all the things I've led a number of fellowships. I'm a fellowship director out at the University of California at Irvine. Now I'm a professor out there, and I led Andy Weil's program down at the University of Arizona. So I've trained more than 1,000 doctors at this point in my life. And what I would say is that we teach them all kinds of things, in their integrative medicine fellowship. But what is the thing most of them are most curious about? Herbs. And then supplements, they want to know about supplements too, but it's all part of the same thing. But what they're most fascinated about are the herbal medicines. And I think it's because physicians inherently know that these plants have power, that our medicines all came from plants originally. All the pharmacies, all the physicians who were mostly botanists as well, this is part of their heritage. And so they are curious about it. If you ask me the role of herbalism or herbalists in kind of the modern integrative medicine movement, which is growing all across the country, I would say that herbalists play a unique and special role. Yes, I think it is important to know the science. I'm a scientist. I think it's important to understand evidence. Why wouldn't you? But I think it's critical for herbalists to not lose sight of the evidence of tradition, the evidence of long time use, the evidence and the science of indigenous wisdom, of plant wisdom. It's something that sets herbalists apart, I believe, from some of their naturopathic cousins, and certainly from the medical doctors, is that herbalists tend to be the keepers of that knowledge. So for me, I love working with herbalists. I love referring to herbalists, especially when we're doing telehealth, like in other places, referring them, members of the guild and et cetera. But I find that herbalists, good herbalists, like good herbalists, are great counselors. They're great listeners. They're great healers. They have strong intuition, and their experience brings wisdom. And so I love to see new herbalists continually coming into our community. And part of it is humility and just knowing what we don't know and being curious. I mean, that's why, I was an herbalist and had an herb company. I went to massage school. I trained as a midwife. And even with all of that, I said, oh gosh, there's still people are coming in here with so many problems I don't know how to take care of. Maybe I'll become a doctor. And of course, it was like, okay, well, first you got to go to college, because I'd never gone to college. So, I mean, it was kind of a climb up to get all that done. And I love it.
A lot of work.
Yes, but I love all of it. It's like people are like, it's going to take you so long. It's going to be 8 years. And I'm like, yeah, but what else am I going to do in that 8 years? I mean, it's like, if I have 2 words that I've used with my children and with the students over the years, it's stay curious. Stay curious. When something rubs against you in a way, sort of say, oh, I'm curious why I'm reacting like that. I'm curious about that. And I think that it's curiosity that that has been one of the greatest sort of drivers in my own life, is just remaining curious. And something my grandmother told me when I was young, I was doing martial arts. I was so into martial arts, and everything else was just something to kind of fund my habit of martial arts, doing taekwondo. And my grandmother was a Christian, and I went back home and I was very interested in Buddhism. I was reading the Tao Te Ching. I mean, this was a whole new world for me. This was the 1970s, right? And I went home, and it mattered to me what she thought, because I loved her so much. And I said to my grandma, I said, Grandma, I'm studying about Buddhism, and I find a lot of wisdom in it. And I'm really curious about a whole other way of thinking about creation and our place in it. And I'll never forget, my grandma looked at me and she took my hand. She wasn't very tall. She came over and she took my hand and she said, honey, the only thing I'm going to ask you is that you make your world a bigger place, not a smaller one. When you're out in the world, take it all in. You don't have to leave something that was special to you to bring in something new. She said, just make your world a big place. Don't make it small. I never forgot that, Linda, because I think most of my life has been about making my world bigger and not smaller. And I think sometimes in modern times, we can get very narrow in the way we think about things, and we make our world very small. And that's a shame, because the world is a really big, beautiful, complex, tragic, magical place. And I want
And
all
what
of
a great reminder, because I think in the tragedy of some of the things we've gone through as a humanity in the past few years, that people can tend to lean toward making things smaller. And just such a great reminder to be curious even about the tragic things.
Yeah.
You know, what is this? And in that, as we think about herbal medicine and its role in taking care of our emotions and our feelings and anything that distress we might have. Do you have some words of wisdom about bringing plants in to help, I guess, calm the soul, support us in being curious?
I do think that there are plants that help open us. Some of them are clearly psychoactive, others are not. I don't partake of psychoactives really at this point in my life. But I do love things that open my heart. We grow a lot of roses here, all of them obviously organic. We don't spray anything, and I love to gather my rose petals. I love crushing them and making them like into kind of a powder almost like in my Vitamix. And then I drink rose like in an oat milk with a little cardamom and a little vanilla. And it's this beautiful reddish pink, beautiful color. And when I drink it, I'm just like, I ask for my heart to stay open and for me to be filled with compassion. Especially on the days when compassion may be harder to find, right? And sometimes, like, I love the blue lily. I know people call it a lotus, but blue lily, I've loved it ever since we went to Africa and saw it growing in all the ponds over there. And I love that because when I do that, I do that when I meditate. And so I think that plants have always been part of ritual to me. I like to burn them. I love burning herbs. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, but parfume, through smoke. That's where that came from, through smoke. And so people from the first time we had fire found that they could burn some of these plants, and that the smoke from them could carry their prayers or could alter their consciousness or could affect their breathing, either positive or negatively. And I just, I'm just, I think that for me, plants, when I give them to patients, I'm always telling them stories about them, right? So I feel like, I had a woman once who just she was struggling with chronic fatigue. She had a lot of problem with chronic fatigue, and she'd been to a lot of things. She'd had a lot of physicians. She'd been to some other, integrative physicians and that. And we did a thorough review. And then I just said, I just feel like there is this herb called rhodiola. It's a Viking herb. It's an herb like that the Vikings used. Also, everybody that lived where it was cold and the winters were long and hard, because rhodiola can bring this sort of deep energy up inside of you. And I feel like that's what you need. I feel like we need to get your chi moving. And I said, and there are studies that show it helps with fatigue, it helps with mental fatigue, it helps with physical fatigue. But when you take it, I want you to think like this was the herb of warriors, men and women. When you tell people stories like that, I mean, what story can you tell really about a Fexer or Prozac? No, I'm serious. What
No, you
story
can't.
do you tell? Because part of the story is part of the medicine. And I just feel like
Absolutely.
herbs are one of the ways in which we can tell stories for people. And even like with chakra work, as a physician, I don't typically talk much about the chakras, but I don't have to. It's like somebody, if it seems like root chakra is kind of, imbalance, I don't have to say anything like that. I don't usually, unless there's an invitation to speak that way. I just say things more like, it just seems like maybe when you were young, things maybe ungrounded you. It was hard for you to set your roots down. and for you to feel safe inside of who you are. Does any of that feel true to you? And often people will cry, and you know, you're picking up on that, right? And then all the things I might be thinking of around root chakra, I'm going to be using, but I don't have to use that language, especially in some areas of the country or with certain cultures where that might seem threatening, or it might seem like it doesn't fit with them. So herbs should always be used in ritual. Herbs, it's why I tell people to drink teas. It's not that I don't like and make tinctures, but in my opinion, it's very hard to get to know an herb in a tincture. Alcohol changes the quality and the energy of the plant. So it's like, if you're learning about the plants, try to drink them as teas to begin with, and then move to tinctures. Of course, they're more convenient, they're concentrated. But when you're just learning about a new plant, you know, make the tea, look at the color, smell it, taste it, hold it in your mouth, journal about it. Don't be in a rush. Don't be in a rush with the relationship. And you'll find that you begin to actually, because we've evolved with plants, that even just through that exercise, you'll be able to tell a lot of what the plant is for. Is it wet in your mouth? Is it drying in your mouth? We did an exercise up in the forest up here with one of the classes last year, and they didn't know what they were drinking. And they all were trying to guess it. And I'm like, please don't try to guess what it is. Just talk about the qualities. They described moistening, soothing, sweet. It was marshmallow. And they were just like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like, wow. And I said, you described everything about marshmallow. You don't have to know all the names. You have to become intimate with the plants in an intimate way. And then you can learn the science, and you can learn the evidence, and you can learn the tradition and all that. But I like firsthand experience with my plants. I like to develop a relationship with them on my own and then do that.
And you know, one of the things I've noticed in teaching that way is that when people have the personal experience and then they hear the validation of the information, that their confidence level is increased.
Yes.
And that is for people who are, you know, and any of us, the more I get to know a plant, my confidence is increased in being able to enlist it or suggest it or invite other people to interact with it.
It's so powerful, isn't it? And it's
It really is.
It is one of the things that was, when I was in medical school, Dr. Art Kaufman was my attending physician. He was a beautiful soul. We went in, I was a third-year medical student, saw a woman with her child, and the child needed amoxicillin. So we go back out. Dr. Kaufman's like, okay, you write the prescription. And I'm like, okay. And I started to write it, and then I stopped, and he goes, do you know the dose? And I'm like, yeah, I know the dose, 20, 40 milligrams per kilo. I know. And he said, well, go ahead and write it. And I'm like, how exactly is amoxicillin made? Like, I kind of know what it is because we studied it in pharmacology, but like, how do you make it? Like, what is it actually made from? And he looks at me and he goes, well, I don't really know, Tieraona, but you know, and I'm like, but how, we're giving somebody something like that. I don't like, and I told him, I said, I've never given somebody medicine that I didn't make or that I haven't taken. It was such an and he was so sweet. Linda, he's like, well, okay, that's very interesting. Maybe that's something we can talk about another time. But right now, why don't we get the prescription? Go ahead and write it. Let's not keep the mom waiting and everything. But it was this moment that I had, that I realized that I had a personal, intimate, and deep relationship with the medicines that I had used for so many years. And now I was being asked to learn about a whole new group of medicines, for which I'm very grateful that I've learned. I am so grateful. But it was that moment of realizing that I had stepped out of my personal relationship with these medicines and moved into more of a pharmaceutical, you know, Western corporate kind of model. And I'm grateful for them, because I've seen prescription drugs save people's lives. I've just seen it over and over again. But that was an interesting, it was an aha moment for me. Yeah.
That reminds me, one of my students studied the nightshade family because she worked in hospice, was her primary area of care. And she said a lot of the drugs that we're using are in the nightshade family. So
Yeah.
when she was studying with me, she said, I'm going to study the nightshade family for that very reason, so I can have more of a connection of what we're offering.
Powerful
So,
alkaloids, powerful alkaloids
mhm,
in that nightshade family.
very powerful.
And I know,
So,
and people forget that like ashwagandha is a nightshade, you know? So yes, not the same as like a belladonna, but you know, it is in the nightshade family. And so some people that are trying to avoid nightshade, good to remember that that's a member of the nightshade. But also just to keep in mind the whole mystery and power of that family, and to sort of keep that in the back of your mind when you're using ashwagandha too, which, you know, is such a powerful herb. I was just out at a group and they were like, you know, and it's an Ayurvedic herb. And I'm like, yes, it is an herb that is used in Ayurvedic, but it is not an Ayurvedic herb because it's also used extensively in African medicine. As you know, Linda, we go to Africa every year, a couple times a year, and it grows there and people use it there. And I'm just like, you know, there's nobody owns that herb. It grows in multiple places over there and people all have a story and a use for it. Right. So, and I'm so always curious. It's like how, and they, in Africa, they actually think of it more the way we might think about nightshades being powerful and also being potentially harmful when used in certain ways.
mhm. So, I know our time's going to go by really quickly, so I had a couple other things I was hoping we might be able to
Sure.
talk about. And one of them is, we were talking before we started about two things. One, your new grandchild, and how you're experiencing some changes in being a grandparent. And I was wondering if you might just share that, because that just was so profound to me to hear you talk about how you felt like there were even some biological changes in that experience of becoming a grandparent.
Yeah. Her name is Zia Itzel. Um, and Itzel actually is the goddess of healing and medicine and midwives. And so I loved that. When I went to see her, we were coming back from Africa when she was born. She came a little early, and we went to see her. And it was something to watch my son, you know, who's 41 years old now, hold this little girl in his arms. And for me to feel like it was just moments ago, he was at my breast, you know, just moments ago, I was holding him. And when I held her, when I put Zia in my arms, I do believe there was like something biochemically shifting within me. I felt it. I felt a shift happening within me. And the love, the instant love was so powerful, you know, that sense that, you know, like that you would give your life without hesitation for your children. And then now for her, for this little girl, Zia. And my daughter-in-law, I don't like daughter-in-law, I just call her my second daughter. She's so beautiful and she's such a wonderful mother. And you know, all that goes with, you know, getting up all night and nursing and doing all of that. And then my son, it was so sweet because he came to me and he said, Mom, until I've seen Cara doing this, I never thought of like how hard this was for you. Like just like how much it is like taking care of a little baby, you know? And it touched me that he sees that in her and sees her strength and as a woman, you know, to be able to do that. And I'm reminded of that Nikita Gill poem. I love her work. Fathers, do not let your sons forget where their essence was just formed. When their bodies were most vulnerable, they were protected by the womb of a woman. If they ever call women weak, remind them of the strength of their mother who pulled her whole body apart to give theirs a home. Wow. Pulled theirs all apart to give them a home. And I think my son was seeing in his partner and his beloved, like, wow, look what happened here. It was very powerful, very powerful. And as I told him, I said, the greatest gift you'll ever give that little girl is to love her mother. The greatest gift you'll ever give Zia is to love her mother completely and with everything you have. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. That poem is beautiful. I've never heard that before.
Oh,
I saw a lot of hearts going up with it.
oh, it's so beautiful. And if you're
Yeah,
not
so-
familiar with Nikita Gill, oh my goodness, get familiar. Her work is magnificent. You know, it's what I tell my daughter all the time when she's doing, you know, I'm like, oh, baby, you got the blood of warriors, midwives, and healers flowing through you. You know, and it's like Nikita has that. It's like that sense of the blood of warriors and healers and mothers and midwives, and just the, it's like I feel like I can call on my ancestors. Well, I do call on my ancestors all the time.
Wonderful. And thank you for sharing that, because I can't tell you how many times I hear women dismiss their experiences, like that biochemical experience, and just reinforcing that, reminding us that those things do happen, that we actually do have those changes actually happen in our bodies. And in relationships, how important they are. And I know we were talking as well about community. So I was hoping we could talk a little bit about that as well. And I had shared with you that the first year you came to our conference, I've heard people repeat something you said, which was funny, but really profound. And what you said was you would prefer that people eat, I think, cupcakes with their friends than eat a salad alone in their car. And just that whole sense of, you know, even what you're describing with your family, and then the extended family of community and our friends and our relationships, how important those are. And I've heard you speak about this, and I was wondering if you could just say a few words about that.
Yeah. You know, we're tribal by nature. We, you know, one of the greatest harms and punishments that was given in old times, even amongst indigenous groups, certainly amongst Jewish and some of the great faith traditions, was to banish you. You'd be banished. I mean, so what did that mean? I mean, you had no community. You were sent out alone. You didn't have your family. You didn't have your friends. You didn't have protection. And we're hardwired for intimacy. We're hardwired for that connection with one another. And for women, that's even more powerful than it is for men. You know, when you're in school, you're learning fight and flight, the fight and flight kind of reaction, which also includes freeze. But, you know, it was when women researchers got involved that they said, oh, no, there's a whole nother response, and it's called the tend and befriend response. And it's as valid and more and as powerful as a fight or flight response. And you know, I remember thinking in undergrad, it's like they were always about fight or flight. And I'm like, well, if everybody's fighting and running, like who's taking care of the babies? Like who's taking care of the kids and the old people? I mean, like who's still around? Because it just didn't seem like everybody was fighting and running, right? And when this came out in the 1980s, this research on women, particularly, one of their big responses is to tend and to befriend. And so for us, when we feel socially isolated, and I don't mean, because I like my solitude. So I'm not talking about like solitude that you enjoy. I'm talking about when you feel socially isolated, when you feel like you have no tribe, no family, no people, when you feel alone in that kind of way. It's more dangerous than being obese, smoking 3/4 of pack of cigarettes a day, drinking alcohol, being an alcoholic, and never exercising. I just want you to think about that for a moment, because physicians are always, well, you gotta quit smoking. Oh, you gotta lose that 20 pounds. I mean, we've always got those kind of things. And yet I seldom, when I'm working with residents or fellows, have them say something like, tell me about your friends. Tell me the first name of your 4 best friends. who would like drop everything to come here if you needed them to be here with you. And some people just rattle off like when they get to 10 and I'm like, good, good, good. That's great. That's great. Other people struggle. And I mean that. I can't count the numbers of times when somebody has said something like, well, my daughter would probably, she would try to come if she could. I mean, she lives far away now, but, and then the tears, because what they're really connecting with is the fact that they do feel very alone. And what I'm telling you as a doctor is that it's the greatest predictor of her mortality, of her dying, like of heart disease and her death in general, than a woman who feels like she has a group of people that she can talk to and relate to. And in my experience as an herbalist, working with other people in my community, how many of them have come to my ranch and it's like, I feel like I found my people. Like, I feel like, you know, and Linda, I know you've had the same thing. This is why you create conferences. You create these conferences to create community, especially for women to be able to come together so that they can go, oh, so I'm not really weird. I'm not really strange. It's like I find other people that think like I do, and I don't feel like I'm the black sheep or that I'm somehow less than. And that's a powerful and for me, it's one of the powerful things about our community and the women's community and the women's herbal community is that connection. And it's why I like to support you when I can, Linda, because I think what you do is very important.
And you're right, we do. We hear this over and over again. I cried at the last conference. A woman standing next to me said, you know, 3 years ago, I met my best friend here. And those kind of things just, you know, just really are, that's exactly what it's all about. Absolutely. We're learning lots of information, but there's that community connection. And really appreciate that you understand that. So speaking of the conference,
before I go on, I would just like to say that also something I've learned over the years also is I was in a circle a number of years back. It was at a fellowship so it was doctors and they were in a circle and everybody was just sharing in the opening circle, which, you know, we do. Everybody passes a little stick. Everybody gets to speak. And one of the women spoke like she was so distraught because she'd had to put her beloved dog down right before she came. And she was so emotional because she was like, it was my best friend. He was my best friend. This was so hard. It's like, I'm so grieving. And everybody sat there very quietly. And then it was like, okay, next stick, and moved on. Versus if somebody would have said, my child died, my spouse passed away, everybody would have been providing a lot of comfort. So I just want to also acknowledge that our community can extend beyond people. And for many of and for myself, I'm very close to my animals. And I started out by saying all the beings of this forest. And so I just want to say that community, I think it's harder for people that live in big cities, maybe where there's not a lot of nature around them, because I think that sometimes when you have animals and your birds and, you know, your plants and your trees and things like that, that can give you a lot of comfort. It's a different kind of community, but I've never forgotten that woman that night. And I promised myself that I would never, ever in any way diminish someone's loss because it wasn't a two-legged, that these emotions can be, and this love can be so deep, and to acknowledge that. So I just wanted to say that because I've never forgotten that experience.
thank you for saying that. It makes me think our organizing team, when we meet, spends a lot of time talking about our animals.
Yeah.
A lot of time.
Yeah.
And we all know each other's animals.
Yeah. See, it's powerful. They're part of the community. They're part of the family. They're part of, the first time our vet came out here, he said we had horses and he came out to see the horses and the dogs and cats and chickens and everything else. But he said, so Doc, to me, he says, so Doc, are your horses livestock, pets, or family? I said, they're certainly not livestock. They're way too big to be pets. They're definitely part of the family. And I thanked him for asking because he's been a vet long enough an animal doctor long enough to know people have different relationships. And so I just thought it was so interesting that he asked livestock, pets, family. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that he cares enough to,
Yeah.
he's going to relate, and
Oh, yeah.
the way he cares for them is going to be reflected. That's
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. He's a great guy. I love him.
So I have two more things because our time is definitely starting to run out that I was hoping we could talk about. And one is if you could say a few words about what you're going to speak about at the conference in May. And then the other thing is I was hoping you would leave us with a couple words of inspiration for the new people who are starting to enter the herbal world, and then also for those of us who have been around for a while. What what can you offer us any words of wisdom, encouragement, as there's lots of changes happening in the herbal realm, and I'm wondering if you can offer us some words of wisdom of things we can focus on to stay the path.
Well, I'm so excited to be coming to the conference. I'm doing a sort of a main talk, which I couldn't tell you what it's about because I won't know what it's about until I stand there in front of everyone. I won't. I don't
I think
plan.
it's titled something about resilience. So you left
Whatever.
yourself a lot
You
of.
need a title. You need a title. But I will be honest, those talks always I don't plan for. Those kinds of talks really come from the energy of the room and what is in the moment. And I
Yes,
just tap into that. My other talk is planned, and it is what I would call more of an intensive, and that's on pain, the many faces of pain. I have spent a lot of my career coming alongside people who are in pain and also people who suffer, and the impact of pain on so many levels, right? It's just on so many levels. And so it certainly will be a lot on herbs. Like, how do you formulate? How do you think? Like, what is nerve pain versus, like more somatic pain versus more musculoskeletal pain? How do you begin to think through those? How do you dose for acute pain versus more chronic? I mean, so there's a lot of I hope pearls in there, because this is something I've spent a lot of time doing, taking care of people in pain. And so I'm very excited for that talk. And remember, it's not just about the pain, but it's also, I can't sleep because of my pain. So how do I formulate for that kind of sleep that also can have analgesia? And adaptogens certainly play a role there. I know y'all are deep into your mushrooms, so we'll include some of those. But certainly when the body is under that kind of prolonged stress with chronic pain, adaptogens have to be a part of it. So it's a wonderful talk. I think people will love it. It's definitely a roll up your sleeves and get out your notebook, because we'll be doing work. It's a work, but I hope it'll be inspirational as well. And then for all the new people that are coming in to this beautiful world, that are being called. You're being called. That's what it is. You're being called to the plants and nature and to the natural world. I was called at a very young age. At a very young age, I always knew I liked being in the forest more than I liked being in a classroom. I loved getting lost by the lake. I mean, I loved being out in nature, and that's never changed. And so the plants were a natural part of that calling. It's work. It's work. I know that that many people are maybe attracted to it because some may be attracted to it because it seems easy, but it's not. It's a lifetime of learning, a lifetime of practice. You practice, right? You practice every day. You practice on yourself. You practice on your kids. We take care of animals with herbs. I mean, you make them, you taste them, you play with them, you dance with them, you respect them. It's a calling, and it's a lifelong calling. And it's one of the most noble traditions you could ever be a part of. It's an old tradition, and one that you should feel very proud of if it's one that you choose to follow. And for all of us who've been here a while, I opened up my first herbal clinic, my first herbal clinic 33 years ago. And I opened my first school 31 years ago. And so I turned 66 this year, and it's and I feel like Rosemary Gladstar and I had a conversation not too long ago, and she's timeless anyway, so I never remember when it was, but and she was just talking about, you know, how we have to help this next generation so that they become the teachers, they become the authors, they become the ones that lead this forward. And so, you know, as you move through this, be okay with becoming the grandmother, be okay with becoming Spider Woman, be okay with making room for the next group. Know that your experiences are so innumerable, and the wisdom that you've gained along the way is something that is valuable and is worthy of sharing. And you know, it's just the way life is. We make room for the new, right? And we step into that beautiful grandmother role, which even before I was physically a grandmother, I felt like I was moving into in my community. I was moving into more of a, not an elder, but more of a grandmother role. And I have a grandmother's heart. And I think that's powerful. So I don't know how much wisdom that was, but that's what I wanted to share.
Well, it's fabulous wisdom, and it really talks about that again, that relationship between the younger people coming in and the older people. Like, we need to have a relationship, and that's one of the things that seems important. And I see that at our conferences, you know, those relationships being built. We had the you'll appreciate this. The teens, the first year we came back after the pandemic, wanted to befriend the adult women so much. It was palpable to see how much they wanted to actually be friends and spend time with adult women. And it really, it speaks to what you're talking about. Like, just that time together is important.
Precious, isn't it? It's just
Yes.
precious. It's precious. And you know, and that cycle of life is just, you know, relationship. It's so powerful. And I'm reminded just of my own mother. I usually start when I'm doing a talk, I usually start with naming my mother and my grandmother, you know, Linda. I go through my 7 mothers, and it's so interesting because my father died on April 15th in 2020. My mother died on June 23rd in 2020, and my brother died on July 11th in 2020. So in 88 days, my family was gone. And it was a powerful thing because hospice wouldn't come to the house because of the COVID. So we were kind of on our own. And I felt very blessed because if COVID hadn't have happened, I might have been traveling. I might not have been home, you know, to care for them, because we moved them here where we could take care of them. And my mother and I had a difficult relationship. She was a powerful and in her own mind, she struggled with many things, including alcohol. And so when she was dying, she'd not roused for quite a number of hours, and you know, you could start to hear the death rattle a bit in her chest. And my husband was sitting in the chair in the room, and I was laying beside her, and I said to her, I said, "Mother, I hope that you will forgive me for always, real or imagined, for when I wasn't the daughter that you needed or wanted me to be. And Mother, I would ask you, I extend to you my forgiveness for any wrongs, real or imagined, in any ways that you were not the mother I needed you to be. I love you with all of my heart, with everything inside. She'd not said a word for like 8 or 9 hours. And the last words she spoke before she left this world were, "Thank you. Thank you." Women are so complex, and mothers and daughters are in such interesting dynamics, and that ability to connect in those final moments was so powerful for me. And I love women. I love women. I'm a women's health person. That's why I wanted to be a midwife. It's why I went to massage school, because I wanted to do prenatal massage and massage babies. And, you know, I love sitting with women and listening. And I had a woman recent who came in and she's like, "I know my blood sugar's off. I know I need to lose weight." And she had this whole long list. And I had seen her history. She was new in my patient panel. And I said, I see that your son passed away. And she kind of sat back for a moment. She goes, "Well, yes." And I said, "Hmm." And she didn't say anything for about a minute. And then she said, he was hit by a drunk driver outside of Santa Fe. And she's like, and I know I need to take better care of myself. I know, I need to lose weight. And she went back into her little thing. And I remember just sitting there, and I just leaned forward and I said, "I think you need ceremony. I think you need to grieve your son. And I think we can deal with all of these other things once we've let you sort of have this grief and pain." And then she just came apart. She was just like, like, I was so angry and he died. And then I just had to move forward and I had to move on because I've got my kids and so that whole thing, this is what I mean about, an herbalist could have done that as easily as I could have. It's like that's what I'm trying to say is that within us, within each of us is this well of compassion, this well of leaning in. When other people walk away, healers lean into it. They don't walk away from the pain or the hardship or the ugliness. It's like I'm here with you. And it's one of the greatest joys and privileges of my entire life has been the gift of being able to sit with people, especially women, through everything. So when I'm an old woman, however long that gets to be, I'm going to look back on my life and I'm going to feel good about the way I lived my life and the way I served, and pray that it was enough. But what we do is important. What each one of you do is important in your life. And I just want to leave you with that you matter and that you're seen. Yeah.
Thank you. And you matter and you are seen. And yes, just thank you for all your words. I feel like we started out with ceremony and community, and now we've ended with that too. So thank you so much, Tieraona. I can't wait to see you in May. And I know this conversation has really spoken to people. I could see it in a little bit in the chat, people saying how powerful. So thank you so much for sharing yourself. And we will see you in May. I know I'm going to turn it over to Maria for some ending things, and we're going to do some giveaways. But everybody, if you want to open your mic and say thank you to Tieraona, go ahead and do that. I think that's always nice to hear voices. And so if anybody wants to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for your wisdom.
Thank you, sweet love. Thank you. All those beautiful voices and beautiful faces. It's my joy to be here with you tonight.
That was
I see
awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take good care. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Maria. Thank you all for the invitation and the time to be here with you tonight.
See you in May.
Good night.
You can take it away, Maria.
Wow, thank you both so much. That was so powerful. Wow. I know I'm not alone. I don't think I'm the only one that cried multiple times during that presentation. That was really amazing. And you will be getting a recording of that, so don't worry about that. That will be going out in a couple of days, so you get to relive this amazing conversation as often as you need to hear it. So we're so appreciative of all of you attending tonight. We appreciate your time, your attention, your participation. And now it's time to give some goodies away. So for the winners tonight, please send your full name and email to Ashley in a private message in the chat so that we can contact you. Okay, so first we're going to give away a Dr. LowDog's book. And I'm just going to do a little scrolly scroll here, a little magic. And I landed on a name that I am not going to be able to pronounce, which always seems to be the case. Oh, wait, I just lost her. Did she leave?
I think she just unmuted. I think she is there.
Yes, yeah, it is. Rumbidze Masawi?
Yes, Rumbidzai Masawi. You did well.
I'm sorry, I did the best that I could. You won the book.
Yeah.
Please make sure that Ashley gets your email address in the private chat so that we can contact you to arrange the shipping details. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to give away the recording package to the 13th annual Midwest Women's Herbal Conference. And the winner of that is Linda Bullet.
Yes, I am here.
All right, Linda, make sure that Ashley gets your name
Okay.
and your email address.
Thank
and
you.
we
Thank you
can
so
get-
much.
You're welcome. Okay, awesome. So little last bits of business. Past community conversations are all archived on the Herb Women Classroom. So you can head on over to herbalwomenclassroom.com and watch all of them, including this one will be on there soon. And let's
And
see.
I think we have like 7 or 8 of them now, which
Yeah.
really good, rich conversations
Yeah.
about a lot of different topics.
Yeah, we have foraging and fermentation and all kinds of stuff. It's really, really deep and rich. And those are all archived and they're all free. So you can head over there and watch as many of them as you want. And we would love for you to stay tuned to our newsletter and our socials for future conversations because we love to do this. And we love to connect in community and connect with powerful women in our community. We'd like to thank everyone for attending tonight, especially Dr. LowDog and Linda, for such a deep and powerful, thought-provoking conversation. And we look forward to seeing all of you at future Midwest Women's Herbal events. Thank you and good night.
Good night, everybody.
Don't
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank
you. Good night.
Ashley, do you have all